Kirtana Gana Nartana Puro Premamritam Bodhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priya Priyakaro Nirmasaro Pujito Shri Chaitanya Krishna Gunaskrite Madhuraiva Nandena Sammohito Vande Upassanatana Radhuyavo Sri Jiva Gopala
I offer my respectful obeisances to the six Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are always engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna and dancing. They are just like the ocean of love of God, and they are popular both with the gentle and with the ruffians, because they are not envious of anyone. Whatever they do, they are all pleasing to everyone, and they are fully blessed by Lord Chaitanya. Thus, they are engaged in mission activities meant to deliver all the conditioned souls in the material universe. I have my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of, because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Shri Radha and Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, who are very much enriched in understanding Lord Chaitanya, and are thus expert in narrating his transcendental qualities. They can purify all conditioned souls from the reactions of their sinful activities by pouring upon them transcendental songs about Govinda. As such, they are very expert in increasing the limits of the ocean of transcendental bliss, and they are the saviors of the living entities from the devouring mouth of impersonal liberation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, who kicked off all association of aristocracy as insignificant. In order to deliver the poor conditioned souls, they accepted loincloths, treating themselves as mendicants, but they are always merged in the ecstatic ocean of the gopis' love for Krishna, and they bathe always and repeatedly in the waves of that ocean. My respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, who are always engaged in intensely worshipping Sri Radha, Krishna, in the transcendental land of Vrindavan, which is filled with peacocks and flocks of cooing swans, cuckoos and cranes. In Vrindavan, there are also beautiful trees full of fruits and flowers, and having roots inlaid with all valuable jewels. With great delight, the Goswamis bestow upon the living entities the boon of the goal of life. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, who are engaged in chanting the holy names of the Lord and bowing down in a scheduled measurement. In this way, they utilize their valuable lives, and in executing these devotional activities, they conquered over eating and sleeping, and were always meek and humble, enchanted by remembering the transcendental qualities of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, who were sometimes on the bank of the Radhakund lake, sometimes on the shores of Yamuna, and sometimes at Vamshivat. At these places they appeared just like madmen in the full ecstasy of love for Krishna, exhibiting different transcendental symptoms in their bodies, and they were merged in the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, who were chanting very loudly everywhere in Vrindavan.
Queen of Vrindavan, Radharani, O Lalita, O son of Nanda Maharaj, where are you all now? Are you just on the hill of Govardhana? Or are you under the trees on the banks of the Jamuna? Where are you? These were their moods in executing Krishna consciousness. Continuing our Srila Prabhupada's selected verses from where we took off, where we left off last time. And now we're doing speed reading, so just look at it and let it all go in. Sukham, no. Viprad Vishad Gunayatara Ravindanabha Padara Vinda Vimukachvapacham Varishtam Manyetararpita Manovachane Hitartha Prana Punati Sakulam Nataburi Manaha. If a Brahmana has all 12 of the Brahminical qualifications, as they are stated in the book called Sanat Sujata, but is not a devotee and is averse to the lotus feet of the Lord, he is certainly lower than a devotee who is a dog eater, but who has dedicated everything, mind, words, activities, wealth, and life, to the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee is better than such a Brahmana, because the devotee can purify his whole family, whereas the so-called Brahmana, in a position of false prestige, cannot purify even himself. Balasya neha sharanam pitara nirsingha nartasya chagadamudanvati majjato now taptasya tat pratividirya ihanja sheshtas tavad vibhotanubritam tvarupekshitanam. My Lord Nrsingadev, O Supreme, because of a bodily conception of life, embodied souls neglected and not cared for by you cannot do anything for their betterment. Whatever remedies they accept, although perhaps temporarily beneficial, are certainly impermanent. For example, a father and mother cannot protect their child. A physician and medicine cannot relieve a suffering patient. And a boat on the ocean cannot protect a drowning man. Itam dratir yagrishi deva jashavatarayer lokam vibhava yasihamsi jagat pratipan dharmam mahapurushupasi ganavritam chanakala yadabhavastriyugota sattvam. In this way, my Lord, you appear in various incarnations as a human being, an animal, a great saint, a demigod, a fish, or a tortoise, thus maintaining the entire creation in different planetary systems and killing the demoniac principles. According to the age, O my Lord, you protect the principles of religion. In the age of Kali, however, you do not assert yourself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore you are known as Tri-yuga, or the Lord who appears in 3 yugas. Naivo dvije paraduratyaya vaitaranyas twadvirya gayana mahamrita magda chitta shocheta to vimuka cheta se indriyarta maya sukaya paramudvahato vimudhan. O best of the great personalities, I'm not at all afraid of material existence, for wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. Prayena deva munayosa vimukti kama Maunam charanti vijanena parartha nishta Naitan vihaya kripanan vimamuksha eko Nanyam twadasya sharanam brahmato nupashye. My dear Lord Nrsimhadeva, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas or to the forest to meditate with vows of silence, Mauna Vrata. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to the shelter of your lotus feet. Yan maitu nadi agriya medi sukham hitucham kandu yanena karayore vatukkatukam trepyanti nea kripana bahutukka bhaja kandutivan manasijam vishaheta dhira. Sex life is compared to the rubbing of 2 hands to relieve an itch. Griya Medis, so-called grahastas, who have no spiritual knowledge, think that this itching is the greatest platform of happiness, although actually it is the source of distress. The kripanas, the fools who are just the opposite of brahmanas, are not satisfied by repeated sensuous enjoyment. Those who are adhira, however, who are sober and who tolerate this itching, are not subjected to the sufferings of fools and rascals. Yasya ya lakshanam proktam pumso varnabhya banchakam yadanyatrati drishyeta tatenaiva vanirdishet. If one shows the symptoms of being a brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, or shudra, as described above, even if he has appeared in different class, he should be accepted according to those symptoms of classification. Shri Narada Uvacha Brahmacharya Gurukule Vasandantor Gorohitam Acharandasavam Nicho Goro Sudrida Saurida. Narada Muni said, a student should practice completely controlling his senses. He should be submissive and should have an attitude of firm friendship with the spiritual master. The great vow, the brahmachari should live at the Gurukula only for the benefit of the Guru. Namashtakam. Nikila Shuti Malri Ratnamala Tuti Nirajita Pada Pankajanta Ai Mukta Kaleru Pasyamanam Paritvastam Mani Nama Samshayami. O Harinam, the tips of the toes of your lotus feet are constantly being worshipped by a glowing radiance emanating from the sasyams known as the Upanishads. the crown jewel of all the Vedas. You are eternally adored by liberated souls like Narada and Shukadev. O Harinam, I take complete shelter of you. Jayanam Adeya Muni Vrinda Geya He Janaranjanaya Paramaksharakrate Tumanada Pimanagudiritam Nikilogratapa Patalimbalumpasi. O Harinam, all glories to you. Sung by all the sages, you are the supreme combination of syllables, and you bring transcendental bliss to everyone. If a person utters you but once, even disrespectfully, still you relieve his many extreme sufferings. Yadabaso Pyudyan Kablita Bhavadvanta Vibhavo Drisham Tatvandanam Apidishati Bhakti Pranainim Janastasyo Datam Jagati Bhagavanamatarine Kritite Nirvaktum Kaiha Mahimanam Prabhavati. O Son of the Holy Name, even a dim glimmer of your splendor swallows the powerful darkness of materialistic life, and give those who are blind to the truth the vision to follow the path of pure devotional service. Who in this world, even if learned and pious, can fully describe your transcendental glory? Yad Brahma Sakshat Kriti Nishchayapi Vinashamayati Vinana Bhogai Apaiti Nama Spuranena Tate Prarabdha Karmeti Virodhi Vedaha. O holy name, the Vedas declare that meditation on the impersonal Brahman cannot bring freedom from karmic reactions, that they must be enjoyed or suffered, but that when you manifest in one's consciousness, all karma at once disappears. Agadamana Yashoda Nandana Nandasuno Kamalanayana Gopi Chandra Vrindavanendra Pranata Karuna Krishna Ityaneka Sarupe Twaima Maratir Uchar Vardatam Namadheya. O holy name, you have many forms, such as Agadamana, crusher of Agasura, Yashoda Nandana, darling child of Yashoda, Nandasuno, son of Nanda, Kamalanayana, lotus-eyed one, Gopi Chandra, moon of the gopis, Vrindavanendra, king of Vrindavan, Pranatakarana, he who is merciful to the surrendered souls, and Krishna. I pray that my love for you in your many forms may greatly increase. Vacham vachakamityudeti bhavato namaswarupa dvayam purvasmat parameva hanta karunam tatrapi janimahe yastasmin vihita parabda nivaha prani samantad bhaved asnyene dambupasya supihi sadanandam bujao majjati. O holy name, you manifest two forms, the Supreme Person you designate and the sound vibration that designates. We know that the second form is more merciful than the first, because even if a person offends your first form in many ways, you plunge him into an ocean of transcendental bliss if he serves your second form with his voice. Sudita Shita Janarati Rashaye Ramya Chit Ghana Sukha Sarupine Nama Gokula Mahotsavayate Krishna Purnavapushe Namo Namaha. O holy name, you destroy the many sufferings of those who take shelter of you. You are the very form of concentrated spiritual bliss, a festival of happiness for Gokula, and the perfect and complete form of Lord Krishna. Again and again I bow to you. Narna vino jivana sudormi niryasa madhuri pura tam Krishna nama kamam Spurame rasane rasena sada. O enlivener of Narada's Vina, O flood of the waves of sweet nectar, O holy name of Lord Krishna, please forever manifest on my tongue with all your nectarian sweetness. Guru Puja, please. Chariya Vaishnava Seva Nistayak Vaigechekeva. Chariya Vaishnava Seva Nistara Vaigechekeva. Namashreshtam manamapi shachi putramatra sarupam rupam tasya grajam urupurim maturim goshtavatim radha kundam girivaramaho radhika madhavasham prapto yasya pratita kripaya shri gurum tam natosmi. He Guru Jnana Dadina Bandho Swananda Data Koranaika Sindho Vrindavana Sinahita Avatara Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara. He Dina Bandho Koranaika Sindho Kuru Prasada Mai Mandamude Laksha Parade Bahupapagade Tatpada Padmestu Matishta Krishna Yadyapi Amada Guru Chaitanya Das Tatapi Janiye Amitahara Prakash Guru Krishna Rupahana Shastra Pramane Guru Rupe Krishna Kripa Karena Bhakta Gane Shikha Guru Keta Jani Krishna Sarupa Antaryami Bhakta Shreshta Eduri Rupa Naivo Payantya Pachitim Kavayasta Vesha Brahma Yushapi Kridam Ridamudasmarantaha Yontar Bahisthanubritam Ashubhan Badunvan Acharya Chaitya Vapusha Swagatim Yanakti. Without serving the representative of Krishna, nobody can approach Krishna. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachi Mata, the association of Srila Sarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatan Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kund and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Shri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. Disciples in a service attitude. According to deliberate opinion of all revealed scriptures, the spiritual master is non-different from Krishna. Lord Krishna, in the form of the spiritual master, delivers his devotees. The relationship of a disciple with his spiritual master is as good as his relationship with the Supreme Lord. Spiritual masters always represent themselves as the humblest servitors of the personality of Godhead. But the disciple must look upon the spiritual master as the manifest representation of Godhead. One should know the instructing spiritual master to be the personality of Krishna. Lord Krishna manifests himself as the supersoul and the greatest devotee of the Lord. The initiating spiritual master is a personal manifestation of Srila Madan Mohan Vigraha, whereas the instructing spiritual master is a personal representative of Srila Govindadev Vigraha. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the Lord and the master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bando Mui Savadana Mate Bando Mui Savadana Mate Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy te. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy te. रति गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उत्तम गति गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उत्तम गति प्रसाद पूरे सर्व आशा जय प्रसाद पूरे सर्व आशा प्रसाद पूरे सर्व चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्म जन्म प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्म जन्म प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेद का जहाँ रचरितो वेद का जहाँ रचरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनारा बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनारा बंधु लोकनाथ लोके रजीवाना लोकनाथ लोके रजीवाना आहा प्रभु दया देव मोरे माला जाया प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पादा जाया एबे जास गुसुप्त भुवाना एबे जास गुसुप्त भुवाना एबे जास गुसुप्त भुवाना प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे बाधा जाया जय प्रभु पदा प्रभु पदा प्रभु पदा चल प्रभु पदा जय Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Namah Om
Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Krishaya, Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta, Swami Nityananda.
Namah Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Krishaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityananda.
Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Pasyadashadarine.
Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Paschatadeshatarine.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhattavrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhattavrinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaura Hari.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari. Jaya Jaya.
Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Om Vishnupada.
Jaya Vishnupada. I don't know.
Help her out.
Jaya Vishnupad, Paramahamsa, Paravaicharya, Hastodhara, Shri Srimad, His Divine Graces, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Jai.
Jai.
Jaya Vishnupadaya, Paramahamsa, Parvijaya, Shota Sheta, Shri Srimad, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vishnu Ki Jai.
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki
Jai.
Prem se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki
Jai.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Rama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki
Jai.
Shri Dham Ki
Jai.
Mathura Dham Ki
Jai.
Navadvip Dham Ki
Jai.
Jagannath Puri Dham Ki
Jai.
Ganga Mai Ki
Jai.
Yamuna Mai Ki
Jai.
Tulsi Devi Ki
Jai.
Bhakti Devi Ki
Jai.
Sankirtana Yagna Ki Jai
Jai.
Samaveda Bhakti Ki
Jai.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Haribo. Srimad Bhagavatam class.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Bijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. यमुनतीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज विहारी माधव जय कुंज विहारी
Naram chaiva narottamam Devim sarasatim vyasam Tato jayam udiraye. I first offer my most respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to all the previous acharyas, and to all the assembled devotees. Vansha kalpadrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasatim vyasam tato jayam udiraye. The Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for transformation. And it's described as Viplava in the first canto, 5th chapter of the Bhagavatam. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin prati shlokam abadyavatyapi namanyanantasya yashonkitanya shrinvanti gayanti grananti sadhava. By hearing the Bhagavata, shrinvanti gayanti, singing it, grananti sadhava, accepting it, there's a way in which those who are eager for the nectar of life and to come to the perfection of life take it deeply into their lives. And why does it have such effect? Tadvag visargo janataga. There's a way in which the Srimad Bhagavatam is not an ordinary not an ordinary vibration, because it comes from a different creation. We know from the Srimad Bhagavatam that there are two worlds. There's the material world and the spiritual world. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes how the urdvam mulam adashakam ashvatam prahar aviyam chandamsa yasya parnani yastam veda saveda vit. That there's a reflection of the spiritual world, and it's reflected upon the three modes of material nature. It appears to be real, it has the variety of the spiritual world, but it's illusory in Krishna's definition of illusory in the Bhagavad Gita, nasate vidite bhavo, na bhavo vidite sata, ubariyor apidrishton tastvanios tatvadarshibhi, which means that illusion is defined not as non-existent, but constantly changing. Bhava means it transforms itself constantly. It's never substantial, but always morphing from one thing to another. And reality is that which is substantial. It always exists. Even as the material world changes, the spiritual world stays the same. And even as the soul stays the same, the body changes. Dehinosmin yatha dehe komaran yavanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. A person who has become well situated in knowledge and awareness of his or herself sees that the body changes, but I don't change. In fact, we see it reflected in language. The word to be or is or are in its different forms has a root in the meaning of that which remains. That which remains exists, Krishna says in the Gita. That which doesn't remain doesn't really exist because it's always changing. So that's the differentiation. So the spiritual world's substantial, it's always there. Ham evasam evagre nanyat yasat yarasat param pascharaham taritascha yovishisheta sosmyaham. Even as we see there's no material world and it manifests again and again, that all comes from reality itself, who's Krishna, defined by the demigods who gave prayers to Lord Krishna while he was still in the womb, about to appear in the world, that you're the origin of everything, you're the real Sat, that which always exists, always will exist, and from whom everything else emanates, Janmad Yasya Yataha. And so, when the living beings become absorbed, abhinibheshita, in the external energy, they are fascinated by it, they become entrapped by it. Daivehi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. Although we're superior energy, Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita the differentiation between two energies, Bhumirapo analobhayu kamano buddha evacha hankara ityame binna prakritirashtada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego are the material, gross and subtle, binna, separated energies. And they're also called inferior by comparison to apariyamitas tonyam prakritim vidimi param jiva bhutas mahabaho yayedam darite jagat. Speaking to Arjuna as mighty armed, he says, there's a superior energy which is the conscious living entity, who, by the way, Krishna points out, natvevaham jatunasam natvam nemi janadipa, is always personal and always is an eternal unit of consciousness. It never merges or becomes amorphous or non-existent. It always exists. When that individual, living being, who's a person, becomes intrigued by the external feature of the Lord, then bhayam dvitiya binibesha tasya ishad ape tasya viparyo smriti, which means he looks in the wrong direction with a desire to enjoy separately, and then he's facilitated by the Lord's potency for illusion called Maya. And then he becomes abhinibheshata, absorbed in that illusory potency, and because of that, he suffers. Now, Bhagavatam Tadvag Visargo Janataga Viplavo is a sound vibration from the spiritual world, which is meant to reawaken the soul from that illusion. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed, Maya Mugda Jivar Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan Jivere Kripaya Koila Krishna Veda Puran. For this purpose, Veda Vyas spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam, simply to intervene in the illusory life of the living entities, so that they could remember and remember their real purpose in life and reawaken their relationship with Krishna. Otherwise, it doesn't happen automatically. It's not swata or automatic. It requires an intervention. In the case of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's a sound intervention. It comes through the ears, and we know that the Bhagavatam describes the stages of transformation that take place when one hears the Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning with Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridyant Saksto Hibadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam, Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, Bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Tada rajastamo bhava kamalobadayaschaye cheta ater anavidam stitam sattve prasidati. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavad tattva vijnana mukta sangasya jayate. Vidite hridaya grantis chidante sarva samshaya shiyante chasya karamani drishta eva manishvare. Vidite hridaya grantis chidante sarva samshaya shiyante chasya karmani drishta eva manishvare. Ato vai kavayo nityam bhaktim paramaya muda vasudeve bhagavati kurvantyatma prasadanim. And the devotees, the end of the paragraph say, enjoy this process of transformation that begins with hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. And by that hearing, Krishna assists the devotee from within the heart to remove the misunderstandings that he has about what the real value in life is. And then there's an interim stage, nashta prayushu bhadreshu. When abhadreshu, those things which appear to be valuable when we're in illusion, are then the soul begins to see them, a person begins to see them as unfavorable, which they are. They appear to be a good idea, but then when one gets a higher taste, one sees these are not so favorable for me. They're abhadra. They're inauspicious, or they bring me bad luck. Nobody wants that. And there's a clarity that I'm becoming free from these things, although they still remain to some degree. And then there's a point, just as when you take medicine, you notice that you're improving, and then you come to a point where I'm better. Tada rajastamo bhava kama lubadayasche cheta iter anavidam stitam sattve prasidati. Tada, at that time, one gets situated in what's called Shuddha Sattva. No one's no longer involved at all with Rajas and Tamas. They're gone. And at that point, evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yoga, the happy life of a living entity begins. The mind becomes happy. It's its natural state. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha, by engaging in bhakti yoga. Bhagavad tattva vijnanam, one has clarity, perfect knowledge about the categories of energies, which to engage in, which not to engage in. And one becomes aware that now I've broken free. Vidyate hriya grantish chidyante. It's like a sword has cut me free from my tethers to the material world. And then evam paramaya mudha. Was that the verse? Last one? Atovai kavayo nityam. Bhaktim paramaya muda. Muda means happy. This is the devotees enjoy this process at going through it because they're getting better. Even in the preliminary stages, one notices that one's improving. So what is the actual process through which we become free from misconceptions? And with the danger of presenting this point ad nauseum, please forgive me. I'm about to turn in my final paper for my Bhaktivedanta, and it's the topic, which I'll say again for the, 1000th time. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions 3 categories of psychological anomaly that keep us bound to the material world. And he says you must become free from these, and they are raga, bhaya, and krodha. That means irrational attachment to temporary things. It means a fear of personhood because of my confusion about who I am and my disappointment with the relationships I've had in this world. Also, in general, the malaise of the material world, I blame on personhood. And even if there is a conception of God as a person, I think, well, if he is a person, why is he messing me up so much? And therefore, I really don't want to know him at all. I'll prefer an impersonal conception to ascribing the sufferings that I'm going through to a person. And then finally, there's krodha, which is an intellectual exhaustion. I've heard so many theories, and I hear there's so many religions, and everyone says it again and again, even though it's not true, that religion is the cause of all problems. There have been more wars and killings by atheists by far than by religions and religious leaders. Nonetheless, one develops a sort of cynicism, which results in the attitude that there is no real answer to anything. Nobody knows anything, because obviously, with all these conflicting theories, how can any philosophy lead to truth, and how can any human being know anything anyway? And these are the three general ways in which one is held back from experiencing the happiness of life, which is to reestablish a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The Bhagavatam solves the problem of raga, bhaya, and krodha. And how does it do it? I've talked about it in specific ways, but I'm going to talk about it. What is the mechanism through which we become, or the mechanisms through which we become transformed? No longer interested in the temporary, rather we're interested in that which is eternal. We are no longer afraid of personhood, and we're not confused. Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana means that we come to a clear idea about what's truth, what isn't truth. We know the categories of energies, and we're not angry or cynical because we understand what reality looks like, and it's beautiful, and we know how to get there. So how does that happen? In general terms, we achieve this vicariously. The word vicarious means taking the place of another. It's from Latin. It supplies a place. It's substitution, a delegation. And what it means, literally, vicariously, is to come to a conclusion, experience something that can transform you through somebody else. In other words, you don't have to go through it yourself. You can hear it from someone. You can observe their life. That's why in many literatures meant for transformation, there are examples of what people who did things, and it says, you should do this, or people who did things and you say, never do that. And you can see the results of what they got. So vicarious realization, that is, hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, gives us another word, or a concept, I should say, a phenomena, which goes together with the word vicarious, although they're not etymologically connected at all. They are good partners, and that's catharsis. Catharsis originally meant a bodily purging, and I won't go into the details on that. But what it came to mean is a purging of unfavorable emotions. And in psychotherapy, it was first used in 1909. The word was connected to the idea of someone having psychological conflicts or feeling misfitted for the world, and then going through a process called psychotherapy, which has a lot to do, I don't know a lot about it, except my father was a psychotherapist, and he used to talk to me all the time, and it helped. So I didn't know if he was psychoanalyzing me, but he was very calm, patient, and I'm sure he was that way with his patients too, because some of them he told me he had for 5-7 years to talk to before they had major breakthroughs, or what is called a catharsis, or a purging of certain misconceptions that one may carry. And it's not, you don't have to go very far to talk to a human being who's carrying some emotional conflict within his or her heart. So there is a sense in this world that we need some catharsis, a way to purge those things. And the idea of vicariousness and catharsis are represented in the Bhagavatam. a simple idea, and that is by hearing the philosophy and the nested stories, that is, stories within stories of the Bhagavatam, which intrigue the mind and bring it more deeply into the narrative, at the same time infusing the philosophy of reality, distinguished from illusion, for the welfare of the reader. That creates a catharsis, and we do it vicariously. That is, through others. We hear the stories of others. Now I'll introduce one more concept, which is fully present in the Srimad Bhagavatam and can be verified as part of our main process for achieving victory, Param Vijayate, Shri Krishna Sankirtan, or as we say, Narayanam Namaskritya, Naram Chaya Varanotam, Devyam Saraswati Vyasam, Tato Jayam Udirad. How will we have victory over the sad condition of being in the material world and the inane way in which we're attached to matter, way below the dignity of the soul? Well, it also comes through the aesthetic presentation, which is natural. Okay, let me reword it so I speak English. That is, okay, let me just start with a little context and then I'll develop a working theory. Aristotle's theory of tragedy, it comes from Poetics, one of his famous works. He argued that tragedy is a form of imitation of the world, of action. A tragic play presents serious events involving characters who are neither purely good nor evil, and whose downfall comes from hamartia, or tragic error. In drama, Shakespearean drama, there are historicals, there are comedies, and there are tragedies. Three things that those who study English literature describe as these are the three categories. And especially through tragedy, and as described by Aristotle, one might see a tragic error in a character. From the perspective of being in the audience, you may say, oh, don't go in there. Don't do that. Don't say that. And through that, let me see what else he says. The key emotional goal of the tragedy is to arouse pity and fear. And although Aristotle does not use the word vicarious, it's Latin, as we know, and it comes much later, the idea is central that the audience does not suffer the tragic events themselves. Instead, they emotionally participate through the characters. It's the idea, Aristotle's idea of the tragedy. And viewers imagine something like this: this could happen to someone like me. So you see where I'm going with this, that as participants in the material world, we look for a time in which we can observe somebody else going through something. Why do people watch movies anyway? They want to observe some plot line where people are going through something. Otherwise, it's not interesting. And obviously, the more there's the introduction of a fatal flaw in someone, the more we can relate to it, because we all recognize we have fatal flaws also. And better if we watch somebody else. And maybe it's not out of pity, maybe in a certain perverted way, we enjoy watching other people suffering. That could be Icha Dvesha Samutena. In the material world, there's that mindset. Nonetheless, it's fascinating to us. So he goes on to say, does Aristotle, that there's a catharsis, a purging, in the outcome of such a tragedy. It intensifies pity and fear, the structured arc of the play, where there's reversal, recognition, and resolution, these three things, leads to a release or clarification of those emotions. So the audience gets to watch it, see the fatal flaw, see the resolution, and they walk away feeling edified that now maybe I can deal with the world in a better way. That was his theory of the tragedy, especially. Now, where do we find this in our Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy? Rupa Goswami. Because Rupa Goswami, as you may or may not know, had taken his ideas from the foundational ideas that had already been presented in a Vedic drama as presented through Bharat Muni. In fact, even before Bharat Muni, who was the father of drama in the Vedic context, there was Brahma, who had also given contributions to the form of catharsis through watching drama. Now here's Bharat Muni's presentation. He talks about rasa. His idea is through drama, by watching drama, here's the benefits. Emotional states are portrayed on stage. You get to watch emotional states. Through performance elements, gesture, music, language. And of course, we get this also in the other Vedic arts like dance. And you have Bharatanatyam, where the expressions are emphasized. And it's almost like emojis going one after another. And you go, oh yeah, I get that, I get this. The audience experiences, Bharat Muni said. And he wasn't talking about transcendental rasa. He was talking about the human experience. He was not a transcendentalist. He was more of a humanist and observing the human emotion. But he said the audience experiences rasa, a refined aesthetic emotion. And here he claimed, of course he talked, and these were his categories that he observed through drama. The aesthetic experience that there was Shringara, love, there were Karuna, pathos, Rodra, fury, Bhayanaka, fear, and there were others that he added, 9 in total, finally. Do you recognize any of those? Yes, of course. Because taking from an already understood foundation in the Vedic context, Rupa Goswami then showed, yes, okay, this is a way of observing and evoking human emotion and catharsis, but actually it originates in the spiritual world. That's why when you read the Nectar of Devotion, for instance, and you get to the middle part, that's where most people stop. Because they get there, and then you get this catalog of all human emotions from every combination and permutation. And you think, what is this? Especially for those who are used to impersonalism. And you start hearing about humors of rasa humors and Shringara, this and that, yawning. What's that all about? His point, theoretically, is that everything comes from Krishna in the spiritual world, and rasa is about relationship and the aesthetic of that relationship. And he further pointed out, as a playwright himself, a transcendental playwright, as were all the great teachers of bhakti, that it's through the aesthetic of the play. Read the Chaitanya Charitamrita and you find the various dramas like Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava and all the great teachers of bhakti, the acharyas, they wrote in this way to bring out the rasa. So again, crucially, the spectator is able to observe what's going on. They don't suffer. Again, back to Bharat Muni I get my head out of Rupa Goswami right now, but the spectator, according to Bharat Muni, doesn't suffer, but the emotion, because the emotion is distanced, universalized, and you're able to savor it. And through that, he claimed that you could achieve a form of transcendental experience. Although he wasn't a transcendentalist per se, but he talked about out-of-body experience when you go to a play. Now, I experienced this when I was a child, so I can really relate to this because my parents were huge fans of the theater. We had season tickets to everything, including the Berkeley Repertory Theater and the Shakespearean Theater that's there. I don't know if it's still going on, but it used to be right when you go through the Caldecott Tunnel. There was a place on the left up in the hills there where they performed Shakespeare. And I remember, and I've said this before, especially all these different places where there was a tragedy. I forget even who wrote it, but probably Kartik knows or something. That was called The Duchess of Malfi. What a tragedy. I'd never seen anything like it. I was just a kid and watching it, and I remember out-of-body experience. I was so carried away by the drama that at the end I was stunned and I didn't know where I was. I was gone. In fact, the troupe that had performed the play understood how devastating this tragedy play was, where a lot of people got killed. They ended with darkness, left everybody in suspended state, and all of a sudden the bright lights came on and a whole troupe came out dancing to a very upbeat song just to give relief to the audience. And it was at that time I realized how far away I had gone and how I had been pulled into this. So this is what Bharata Muni was talking about, and that was, there's an emotional safety in watching drama. And there's a way in which from that art, from that aesthetic experience, which is specifically designed to point out fatal flaws, for instance, in the tragedy, you can restore emotional balance. That was Aristotle's theory about drama. And Bharata said consciousness is elevated. So we get both of these in the Srimad Bhagavatam because it's the Amala Purana. It's the perfect presentation of tattva. The truth is presented, and there's no mixing of the lines. That from whom everything emanates is always present, Krishna. And then you get the catharsis of various presentations. What do you have for me? Tell me what we've won. Okay, he's presenting 2 verses. I'm trusting Shastra Sarprada. I gave him a very difficult assignment, but I knew he was up for it. So I'm going to look and see what we have here, and we'll try to put it together as I read it. 6, 16, 12. First of all, who off the top of their head knows what that is, besides Shastra Sarprada, who just looked it up? What do you want to guess? 6, 16, 12. Do you know what it is? Very good. Okay, thank you. You make things so easy. It is? Oh, this bookmark, not the violet ones? This one. Thank you. Okay, this is in the story, as Mukaravind just said, of Chitraketu. And as context for Chitraketu, he had what Krishna has mentioned categorically in the Bhagavad Gita as raga. It's pronounced in his character because Chitraketu is a king, and kings want progeny, especially sons, because the law of primogeniture at that time was that things get passed on to the son. And he couldn't have one. And so although he had everything, indoor plumbing or, something, a semblance of that, which we all have now, so we all live like kings and queens, and he had servants, and he had the best of food, he had wealth, he could order, he had power, everything like that. He wasn't happy. This is the nature of raga. We find this out in the story of Chitraketu. We're able to observe. It's something that people state explicitly, But here, through the nested story of Chitraketu, you find out, well, there's a king. And especially mentioned by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is that in the Bhagavad, we find that the presentation of kings not being happy is especially effective because most people, especially at that time, consider, okay, because we even say now, you lived like a king. You're living like a king. So everyone thought, yeah, that's the goal. But then you present the king and he's like, he's not happy. Why aren't you happy? Well, I have everything, but I don't have this. And that's the mantra for the material world. As though he didn't have a son, couldn't have a son, tried everything, so then prayed to the sages, Ashirvad, please, give me a benediction, I want a son. And Angira Rishi, who had come there, a powerful Rishi, by controlling the senses and performing austerities, this is a feature or a kind of Shakti, a power, as mentioned in the Bhagavatam. Krishna mentions it himself in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Rishis can develop power to manifest things in this world by the power of their speech and their intention, because they have developed mastery over their senses. They're able to manipulate material nature. And furthermore, as is mentioned in the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali Muni, there are ways in which the speech of such people with controlled tongues becomes very powerful. That's also mentioned in the beginning of the Upadeshamrita, isn't it? Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam jihva vegam udarapasta vegam etan vegam yo vishaheta dhira. Which means that if you can control your senses, you become the master of the world, because the master of the world is the senses, and if you've mastered the senses, then everyone becomes your disciple. Because nobody can control the senses in the world. It's very difficult. And so with the power Angira Rishi had, he offered benediction to Chitraketu, that he could have a son, but he gave a caveat. And it's interesting that Chitraketu misinterpreted the caveat. And why did he misinterpret it? Because he wanted to. And that's a problem. That's a psychological problem here in this material world. We want to stay, so we justify and we misinterpret various instructions just so we can keep doing it. He didn't mean that. He said don't take it, but he didn't really mean don't take it. It meant something else. And Chitraketu heard it, but he couldn't conceptualize what it meant at the time because his vested interest in his own happiness in the material world. And this is one of the misconceptions. This is why misconceptions arise in the first place, because I'm self-centered, not Krishna-centered. When I'm able to recognize that whenever I try to please myself, as Prahlad Maharaj says, the moment you think, how do I please myself, that's when you start suffering and becoming more attached to the material world. But Bhoktaram Yakatapasam, Krishna gives formulas throughout the Bhagavad Gita, but people don't understand them till they read the Bhagavatam. And they see it through Chitraketu that if you just offer yourself to Krishna, then there'll be no problem. And what's more, you'll enjoy like anything. Because Krishna's enjoying, and actually Chaitanya Charitamrita takes a step forward, a step further, and that is you'll enjoy 10 million times more than Krishna. And like, what kind of philosophy is this? So Chitraketu then has this moment where he's told by Angira Rishi, I should say, Angira Rishi told him that there's going to be, your son will have a title, and his title will be Harsha Shoka. So Shoka means he'll cause you lamentation, and Harsha means, oh, you'll feel your hair will stand on end because you'll be so happy. So you put those two things together and you get an astrological chart. Because if you go to any astrology anywhere, which I'm not highly recommending because it requires siddha to do astrology. You have to be in a kind of samadhi where you have a mystic power to be able to interpret the stars properly for somebody. So it's not... Anyway, I won't say more because I don't want a bunch of hate mail. But it requires interpretation. And if you look at anybody's chart, even if somebody does it superficially or to the best of their ability, and maybe there are some siddhas out there, that they're going to tell you the same thing, harsha shoka. What does my life look like? Harsha shoka. You're going to get a little happiness and a little misery. Krishna cuts to the chase, however, in the Bhagavad Gita. He just said, look it, let's finish this conversation. Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravitanojana mamupeti tukona. He says, okay, let's measure it out. From up there, at the very top, keep going a little further. Okay, top, now down there. No, further. Okay, bring the measuring tape all the way down, cross everywhere. Misery. But we don't want to hear it because maybe, somehow, if I keep trying a little harder, maybe if I win the lottery, all I need is one more chance, another partner, another degree, whatever it may be, I can find that happiness. The Bhagavatam takes us by the hand on a journey. Nested stories. We find Chitraketu. Here's your harsha shoka. He didn't want to hear it. And so he gets a son. And of course the harsha comes, because what can make you more joyful than seeing a little baby who came from your loins and is now representing you, especially as a king, Chitraketu. How filled up he was with happiness. Until there was a wailing within the palace that foretold the greatest tragedy he had ever experienced in his life, which was the little baby was dead. That's a pretty heavy bedtime story. I can remember times distributing Krishna book in the airport. Right? One devotee started telling, these are nature books on harmony. And we'd laugh because we'd open this book and see Krishna cutting somebody's head off. And people think, yeah, harmony with nature. And think, what's this story? The baby died. Happily ever after is what I heard when I was a kid. My parents would read me books, and then at the end they say, live happily ever after. That's HEA. It's there everywhere. The idea, happily ever after. But the Bhagavatam comes out and said, this is what harsha shoka looks like. So when he came to the realization that he had lost a child, it was so overwhelming that he couldn't stay conscious. Again and again, he lost consciousness. And again, he woke up to see that this had actually happened. How deep is the suffering of the living entity in this world? And it happens again and again and again over so many lifetimes. So Angira comes back with Narada and understands that this is a teachable moment. He gave him the opportunity, he gave him the warning, and now he had experienced it for himself, Chitraketu. And now, artfully, they presented a way in which he could have relief. And how do we get relief? Through context and through philosophy. But he presents it in such a way that he could see it for himself, experience it viscerally, by bringing the soul back into the body of the child and then doing an interview. Like, what's that late morning show by Namras? He did a Namras type interview with the little baby. So why'd you split? And the little baby says, yeah, that's what I do. I'm moving around the universe. He said, well, why'd you leave your parents? Look at what you did to them. And he said, yeah, like I don't recognize these ones. Imagine the little baby. Even parents who have children who have this phenomenon, it's a documented phenomena that's scientifically studied, that children at a certain age, some, very few actually, but some have a recollection of their past life. At the University of Virginia, look it up. And they'll start telling their parents that, yeah, my other parents. And they're like, wait a minute, Schnicky. We're your parents. And they go, yeah, I had other ones too. And I remember them. It is disorienting for the parents. It's disheartening that, oh, I'm not your parent. And this was done right before the eyes of Chitraketu, that the little soul came back in the body of the little baby and then spoke and said, yes, I don't recognize these parents. That built a context for Chitraketu to then hear from Narada and Angira. So then the Bhagavatam doesn't leave us in that void that you just abandon life, you try to escape into a void, which is this idea of bhaya. I'm so afraid of this suffering of the material world that's caused by my personhood or losing the people that I love the most, that let it all just go away, let it amputate and get rid of it, and that's voidism. That's the idea of merging that Krishna says is bhaya, this irrational fear. You have to give it up. Vitaraga bhaya. And so by explaining the truth and then giving the abhideya, or the practice of chanting the mantra, Chitraketu gets the opportunity to then connect with Shankarshan. And here's a transitional verse. Shukadeva Goswami continued, when the conditioned soul, Jiva, in the form of Maharaj Chitraketu's son, had spoken in this way and then left, Chitraketu and the other relatives of the dead son were all astonished. Thus they cut off the shackles of their affection, which was due to their relationship with him, and gave up their lamentation. And so this transitional, this is what the Bhagavatam does for us. It's cathartic, and it is done vicariously. We're purged of this inane desire to stay attached to the material world, to try to ride it out and take the harsha and shoka together and come to the reality that we're not part of this material world. And one other transitional verse, just to present some shastra for my theories today. 4.7.10. Pundits, before you look at it, where is it? What is it? Sacrifice performed by Daksha. Daksha, have you ever heard the terminology about somebody who became angry? Krodha? As he really lost his head. That's where it comes from. Because Daksha was so envious of his son-in-law, because his son-in-law was Shiva, and he was so exalted. And it hurts so much when you're envious and you see somebody better than you, especially if they're married to your daughter. This is another twisting of the knife in the heart that people get by being attached to the bodily conception of life. This is my daughter, this is my son, this is me, this is my kingdom, this is all my stuff. We get the guidance from the Shishopanishad, Isha Vasamidam Sarvam, Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagat, Tena Tyaktena Bunjita Magradha Kasaswadanam. Everything animate or inanimate within the universe is controlled by and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So Daksha perpetrated a great offense against Shiva, so much so that his daughter committed suicide. So you get everything in the Bhagavatam. Can you imagine a Thanksgiving dinner when your daughter-in-law, your daughter comes to the house and you ignore her because of who she's married to? Can you imagine such a scenario? Say yes. Yes. If you haven't seen it in your family, which I hope you haven't, you can watch it on any drama, TV show. That these things happen in human society, and Bhagavatam covers every scenario. If you catalog your journey as you go through the Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll find everything. Somebody might say they get to the ninth canto and they go like, slavery and human sacrifice? What in the heck is this doing here? Because it's perusing the every experience the human being can have under the category of raga bhaya krodha. It doesn't leave anything out. It gives the extreme circumstances and nested stories. So we can look at it and have a catharsis. And we're vicariously experiencing it in our own lives, and we come out purified. It's part of the power of the Srimad Bhagavatam. When it comes to anger, there's nobody that exhibits anger and the results of that better than in this story. Frustration at being attached, and then acting so passive-aggressively that his very daughter sits down at the soiree, and because of her mystic potency, she immolates herself and burns to ashes. And then the followers of Lord Shiva, his posse, become incensed at this whole series of events caused by Daksha, and they come and there's a rumble that takes place between the followers of Lord Shiva, who are, it's like a heavy gang members who come in and they're chopping, swinging, this and that, and somebody takes the sacrificial instrument that's used in the normal sacrifice to bring animals back to life after killing them to show the power of the mantras, and they chop off Daksha's head. So then we come to such an extreme story. What's that doing in the Bhagavatam? Books on nature and harmony. Take it home, read it. The kids will love it. So a transitional verse. At that time when Daksha shot Lord Shiva, because after the whole event and he had realized the error in his ways, who rides upon a bull, his heart, which was polluted by envy of Lord Shiva, was immediately cleansed, just as the water in a lake is cleansed by autumn rains. And Prabhupada gives this purport. Here is an example of why Lord Shiva is called auspicious. If anyone sees Lord Shiva with devotion and reverence, his heart is immediately cleansed. King Daksha was polluted by envy of Lord Shiva, and yet by seeing him with a little love and devotion, his heart immediately became cleansed. In the rainy season, the reservoirs of water become dirty and muddy. But as soon as the autumn rain comes, all the water immediately becomes clear and transparent. Similarly, although Daksha's heart was impure because of his having slandered Lord Shiva, for which he was severely punished, Daksha now came to consciousness. And just by seeing Lord Shiva with veneration and respect, he became immediately purified. So this tendency for envy is prevalent in the heart of one who is involved with the material world. And by hearing the story of Daksha, seeing how he was purged of envy by the association of Shiva, what to speak of the severe result of disrespecting his daughter and Lord Shiva? Look what happened. If that doesn't stick in your mind after reading this, for any time that you feel a little flare of anger in your heart, and you might think, better cool it, because this is the result that comes. This is another example of the ways in which the Srimad Bhagavatam gives us a vicarious opportunity for purging the last vestiges of attachment to the material world. But even more importantly, as in the third point I made earlier, the rasa, when we hear about the ways in which Krishna is inordinately merciful and kind to his devotees, how he gives the kings who had been kidnapped by Jarasandha their dignity back. He restores them, brings them back to their positions. How he saved Putana. Even that is celebrated by Uddhava, who brings up that point. Kamvadayalum sharanam vrajema. Who would take shelter anywhere else except for Krishna? One begins to develop this sense of, well, maybe God isn't a monster. Actually, I've implicated myself, and maybe there's a refuge. And then the Srimad Bhagavatam keeps inviting us. Samasrita ye padapalava plavam mahat padam punya yasho marari pavam virvatsa padam param padam 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 yad vipatam natesham. And it's poetry. It's saying again and again, alliterating how yes, there is a shelter. You could take shelter of Krishna, and it's sweet. And he can solve all your problems, which he says in the Bhagavad Gita. Sarvadharman prityaja. Just surrender unto me. Don't worry about anything else. But through the Bhagavatam, that sense of how he does it, the stories of how he's so merciful to each living entity, and how the statements of the Bhagavatam show how if you just say his name, or even as if you say his name out of anger, sanketam parihasam ba stovam helaramevava vaikuntanam grahanam asheshaga haram vidu. He takes away all your sinful reactions, even if you were joking. Like last night, a lot of people came to the Harinam, and we invited everyone to dance, and a lot of people jumped in. It was amazing, wasn't it? Yes. And even if they were half joking, this morning they're wondering, what did I do? You danced with the Hare Krishna, man. I got it on video. Krishna's so merciful. I'll take that. And our heart begins to change and go towards, let me just be a devotee. Rather than struggle here in the material world. So it affords us that opportunity, and that's the power of Srimad Bhagavatam, Tadvag Visargo Janataga Viplafo, Yasmin Pratishlokam Abhadyavadyapi. It has all the transcendental necessities. And if we take it, we ingest it, then we're able to overcome raga, bhaya, krodha through catharsis. We get a catharsis vicariously, and we also get rasa, as was opined by Bharat Muni and perfected in Tattva by Rupa Goswami. It's all there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Tat Sat. That's it. That's all, folks. Any other things? Questions, comments? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful class. My takeaway was he lost his head. That's one thing. But I was reflecting on this point that how Srimad Bhagavatam talks about relationships, father-son, father-daughter, lust, anger, and both of them got association of a devotee. I was remembering this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Prasangam Ajaram Pasham. So in that verse, the attachment is towards material things. Instead of that, if we can attach ourselves, Saiva Sadhu Shukrito. So in the previous case, it was Lord Shiva, Daksha's case. In this case, Narad Muni, Moksha Dwaram Pavratam. It opens the road to liberation. So thank you very much, Maharaj. Very nice.
Such an important point, and thank you for bringing that to light, that we're not severing Ragabhaya Krodha, we're transforming it. It has to be anchored in Krishna. And when our attachment, which is always there in the soul, it's not that we become shanti, shanti, shanti. There's no more raga, which means attachment. Rather, that is transformed into its pure form of attachment for Krishna. And even krodha, anger, is used in Krishna's service. And bhaya is brought up in an extensive commentary in the first canto, in the 10th canto, 2nd chapter, about the ways in which Yashoda was fearful of Kamsa because she wanted to protect her little child out of Vatsalya Ras. And he said, this is the most purifying force, to have this fear of losing your Krishna consciousness, as it's translated for those who are practicing Krishna consciousness. So all of those obstacles to bhakti, they're not cut out surgically. Rather, they get transformed, as you were saying, by the power of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, who was next? Two? Oh yeah, you got it, go.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful explanations. So I was feeling that how much I'm missing, how much I'm not connecting with Bhagavatam and reading Bhagavatam after seeing some of your explanations. Thank you for highlighting those transitional verses. I was thinking of the story of Vena. So just like Chitraketu, Vena also had a problem with sun. So, but in his case, the transition happened due to deep contemplation. So when, in spite of his good training, Vena could not become a good son. So Anga thought that having no son is better than having a bad son, he initially thought. So, which is a little bit opposite to Chitraketu's view of having some son than having no son. So, but towards the end of his contemplation, he thinks that having a bad son is better than having a good son also. Because a bad son can invoke the renunciation in the heart, and then by contemplating deeply, he just left one night without telling anybody to the forest.
Yeah, just it brought to my mind 3 key verses from the Bhagavatam that relate to Vena. It's not the same point you're on, which I can comment on a little bit more after I say this, which is that Kamadvesha Bhayat Snehad. There's this idea in the Bhagavatam that all the emotions that we see in the material world, Kama, the lusty desires we see in the gopis, as per the translation of the acharyas. Bhaya, you see fear in Kamsa, that he's going to get annihilated again, as he did in the last life by Vishnu. Snehad, you see in his relatives, like the Vrishnis. And these are key points in the Bhagavatam. And in relation, Katamo api navena syad, it mentions Vena in this context by saying that all these people became purified. Mentions 5 different categories of people who became purified by various emotions. But Vena didn't get anything, nor did other atheists, because they just denied, didn't even think of Krishna. They just said, there is no God. I'm God, said Vena. So he didn't get the benefit. But I was thinking also in terms of the Avanti Brahmana, as he had also become disgusted with material life, just as, what was Vena's father's name? Anga. Anga just walked away. And also, the Avanti Brahmana had walked away because he had been a wealthy landowner, and then he got stingy. He didn't offer sufficient respect to the demigods or to his family members, and he gradually lost everything. But in the course of his daily activities, a Brahmana had come to him and offered him an opportunity to print some books. I'm not making this up, it's in the commentary. Especially the Bhagavad Gita, some other books, and also to help build a temple for a beautiful deity, which he did. And even though he lost everything, and he had been impious in many ways, that seed, that kernel stayed in his heart that he had done something for Krishna. And that's what prompted him to just embrace whatever fate he had in the material world. And then itam astaya paratmanishtam ayasitam purvatamar maharshibi aham trishami durantaparam tamomukundangri nishevayaiva. He uttered, I shall cross over material world by being firmly fixed in the service of Lord Krishna. This was approved by the previous acharyas who are fixed in firm devotion to Lord Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He had all that staunch faith, and it came from just a little devotional service. Printing books, by the way. So, we see those also, the way people come to a conclusion of walking away from the material world. And that's a catharsis for us too. It's like, if they did it, I can do it also. It's stani stita shruti gatam tanavan manobir. Bhagavatam doesn't recommend such abrupt processes necessarily, but it gives us an understanding deep in our heart. It's an emotional transformation. As Radhika Raman Prabhu mentioned, not all memory is intellectual, it's emotional. That was a very fine point, because many people say, what's the good of karma and the lesson of karma if I can't remember what I did? But there's emotional memory. We take it in our hearts very deeply that I've been involved in many things in this material world, and when the Bhagavatam brings it out and shows it to us, we feel in our heart, yes, I've been involved in such things. No mas, that's it. I don't want this anymore. I want only the life of purity following Krishna. Okay, there was a couple more. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It was wonderful seeing you make a fortress build brick by brick as you were going through. I wasn't able to keep up, but it was such a beautiful thing to see. One reflection I had was about Harsha Shoka. I was remembering one quote I read. My spiritual master mentions, the happiness in this material world is like eating sweet rice but mixed with sand. I have a personal experience of this in my childhood, where my mother brought it out and we were playing outside, and somehow accidentally some sand fell in it. We didn't realize. And as I started eating it, it was very good, the first bite. But then I still remember that experience, as you were mentioning, the emotional experience of eating sweet rice with sand in it. It was a very different experience. You are feeling happy, but at the same time so disappointed. So I can connect with Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita when it says, this material world is a place of dukkhalayam, even though we experience happiness, because it is making us attached to that temporary source of pleasure, which will eventually give us a lot more pain. Bhagavatam categorically says that this place is a place of misery. So I was just connecting with that experience of mine about Harsha Shoka. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Okay, yes, Krishna Dave.
Haribol, I had a question. Why do envy, anger, and greed exist? Like, they're so poisonous when they're manifested in the material world, usually. Like, where do they come from?
Anger in its pure state is a expression of rasa. Everything comes from Krishna in the spiritual world. And as is explained at the very beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Janmadyasa yataha. This is from Vedanta Sutra, because the Srimad Bhagavatam is an explanation of the Vedanta Sutra. These sutras are little codes that explain everything, but you have to unpack them. So Vyasadeva, who wrote the Vedanta Sutra, which is a summary of all the Upanishads and all the most important thoughts in the Vedas, then wrote a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra called the Srimad Bhagavatam. And there he explains through the speaking of Srimad Bhagavatam, and as do the acharyas who comment on it, you'll find in the very first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the commentary, Janmadyasa yata, that everything emanates from Krishna. So Krishna is a person. He's fully sentient, and he's fully independent. Abhigna and Swarat. So anger is there in Krishna, and he's fully independent, and when he expresses anger, there's a kind of rasa. For instance, When can you think of the time in which Krishna was the most angry? I'll give you a hint. Don't give it away. We sing a song about it after every artik. I mean, what's that song about? God came, he was so mad. He ripped apart a guy, books on nature and harmony. Come onto our temple. What's the song about? God ripped a guy to shreds. Well, he was so angry that even Lakshmi Devi is like, who is this again? Is that my husband really? Never seen him that angry. And there's a rasa in it of God getting angry on behalf of his devotee, Prahlad, his gentle, kind-hearted devotee who, after getting abused by his father, talk about abuse, he tried to kill him in many ways just because he was envious that he was a devotee. And afterwards, Nrsimha said, take a benediction. And he said, I don't want a benediction. I just serve you. That's all I do. I'm not a merchant. And he said, no, really, take a benediction. I'm Bhagavan. I give stuff out. And so he said, just save my father. You mean the one I just tore to shreds? Already done. It's already done. And so his anger comes from Krishna's anger at demons. He became angry at Ravana for stealing Sita Devi and so forth. And devotees also express anger when somebody blasphemes of the other devotees. And this is purifying anger, although we shouldn't lose our temper and then justify it. Say, yeah, I meant to do that. You have to be really careful. It's a powerful energy called Rudra in the material world. And so all of the emotions come from the spiritual world, but there they are satisfying, beautiful, uplifting, and so forth. Everything, when it gets into the material world, brings an opposite result. It's called hlada tapatraya. That the three features of the spiritual world, which are the Hladini Shakti, the Sandini Shakti, and the Sambit Shakti. When you push them through this little converter machine, they go across the Viraja river into the material world. They become Rajas, Tamas, Rajas, Sattva. And the combinations of those three modes of material nature, although it looks like we're going to get happiness from anger, what we get is our head cut off. And what looks like it's going to be happiness from interaction through romantic affairs ends up being complicated. I'll leave it at that. So that's where it comes from. And where do the experiences of the material world come from? They come from those who experience them. The jivas who have this errant idea that I'll get happiness on my own. Bhayam dvitya abhinibesha tasyad ishad ape tasya viparya yosmiti. Because the soul has the same qualities of Krishna, only a minute quantity. So Krishna is avigna and swarat, means he's completely independent, we're a little independent. I saw this man and his daughter in Burlingame one day. That's where I live. By the way, it's the biggest Sankirtan spot in the Bay Area. But only Vijay Prabhu knows that. And his little daughter was clip-clopping ahead of him. And he was behind her, just making sure she didn't go in the street or something. And I was just coming around the corner on a walk, and there was another pedestrian who I didn't know, who was coming around the corner, and we both had the same vantage point to see the little kid running away from the father. And from behind her, noticing us, notice her and the whole scene, taking it all in. You know how we can do that within half a second, you see what it is, and we were both kind of smiling. He said to both of us, he said, she thinks she's independent. And I thought about it as I kept walking, and I thought, yeah, where she can go? No credit card, and can't even catch a Waymo. And that's the living entity who thinks God's independent, I'll be independent, clip, clop, clip, clop. And God's behind us, like, don't go in there. But we just do it anyway, because that's the nature of consciousness. It's free. And Krishna allows for that freedom for the soul, because like the man, he's walking behind his daughter. He didn't put a leash on her, but he lets her find out for herself. Because if she went around the corner and he was still there, she'd stop and look around and go, wah! And that wah, that's us in the material world when we realize, like, oh, I don't like this anymore. Where's my protector? And we look for protection in the material world in all different places. But samashita ye padapalava plavam mahat padam punya yashomarari pavambadir vatsa param padam 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 yad vipadam natesh. And Bhagavatam keeps saying in our ear, just go back to your father. Take shelter again, because it's really dangerous out there by yourself. Don't try to do all these things. And it's ignorance that causes all the anomalies in this world. And ignorance means ignorance. Ishat apetasya means we ignore Isha. So what's the solution? Tanmayata buddha abhajit tam bhakyaika yesham guru devatatma. Get your scene together, little jiva. Turn back towards Krishna with one pointed attention. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Even if you do it imperfectly, the Bhagavatam says, if you just try, turn your attention toward Krishna, that's the problem. You're turned away. Just turn around. And so all of the fearfulness and the anger and all that is misplaced. It comes about by mistakenly turning away from Krishna and trying to express ourselves as the supreme and the center of everything. And then when we experience it, we get this result which is unfavorable. And it's purposeful. It comes to a point, Bahunam Jammanamante Gyanavam Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sarmahatma Sadurlabha. The material world's designed to bring us to our highest potential. So even the practice of others against us and so forth, it brings us to the point where we say Vasudeva Sarvamiti. And then we're happy again. So it's didactic. It's not purposeless and it's not cruel. It's, in fact, suffering is highly purifying. Just like when somebody gets sick and they want to throw up. Sorry, everybody, but I just had to say it because it's true. After somebody vomits, they feel fine again. Right? Sorry. But it's true. And in a similar way, when we suffer in the material world and we feel the effects of Ragabhaya Krodha, which is misplaced, and we get burned by it, then afterwards, from that experience, we come to our right minds, and that's when we're happy. Okay, one other or two other questions? Yes. Yeah, we just have time for a couple.
Maharaj, my question relates to last week Radhika Raman Prabhu's session. And somewhere in the session he mentioned that how when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ghazi had a debate, and Ghazi was basing his arguments out of Quran, and how Srila Prabhupada said that because Quran is also considered a Shastra, so his arguments are valid. If that is true, there are many parts of Quran which also says that anyone who does not believe in Islam should be killed. So if we are basing that as Shastra, then this also becomes valid. How do we work around that?
The point he was making was whatever qualification you have, then you adopt a particular kind of process, and that you should be dedicated in that process and actually follow the results of it. You might remember a moment of seeming levity when I think it was Radhika when he brought up Christianity, about those who follow Christianity. No, it was Jayaweta Maharaj, it was slightly acerbic, which more matches his style, where they said the people who follow, so many people follow Christianity. He said, I don't know very many people who do follow Christianity. And so we'd have to look at that a little more carefully. But the main point, like when Prabhupada was in Iran, and you can listen to the conversations, he talks about how you have to distinguish for those who are following the Quran, you have to find out what your sampradaya is and follow it. What did Muhammad actually say, and what's the origin of it? Because from any perspective, even in the Vedic process, you have Puranas that tell you to worship demigods. And someone from another perspective will say, yeah, well, Krishna says don't do that, so how bogus is that? But for Chitraketu, Angira said, all right, I'll give you the child, but it's going to be Harsha-shoka. And he didn't get it. And so when you don't get it, you don't get it. And there's a time in which you have to adhere yourself to the most authorized process that you're offered at that time, that you're qualified for, because the sense of it is that you'll be able to then make advancement further. And so that's why Prabhupada said adhere to the sampradaya. As far as the details go and who kills whom, you can find stuff like that in the Vedas too. If you read the Nectar Devotion, there's descriptions of how if somebody blasphemes a devotee, you should cut out his tongue. But that's not part of our Sunday program. Nor do we do it on Sankirtan. So you have to be artful and you have to have guidance. That was his other point too. You have to have Guru Sadhu Shastra to go through and understand. Like a lawyer, there's lots of laws. But if you go try to represent yourself without any training, you're going to get creamed. And in a similar way with the Shastra, whatever it is, you have to have clarity about which parts are important. And the problem is that people misuse various Shastras, even the Vedas. That's why Buddha came. There's a whole era where there was parts of the Shastra that says, just kill animals. And he's like, yeah, let's open a shop. And the next thing, Buddha comes and says, just forget the whole Veda thing. Start over. So how to maneuver through all these details and things like that requires some dexterity. And that dexterity means you get somebody trained in it, the acharyas, who pass it down perfectly, and somebody who's studied a little law, who can say, no, not that, this. That's guru. And then the sadhus are directly involved in following it so you can see what their example is. Okay, 2 more short ones? Okay, online? Okay, make it quick, we got to go. I said that to you this morning too, sorry. Yashoda Vatsal, please go ahead. How come Vaikuntha Nayaka isn't asking anything? We don't know what's happening there in Mysore. Okay, Yashoda Vatsal, sorry, go ahead, you're on mute. Can't hear you. They won't unmute him. Nobody can get off mute now. It's really...
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for this session, and especially talking about the Vidyate Nidyaganti Chiddade Sarva Samashya. Recently I went through something called as a Sampurna Hridaya Shuddhikaran program for 7 days, cleaning my heart and all. So I was just trying to relate the same thing with this, that this Srimad Bhagavatam is actually the purification. It's a medicine for purifying my heart. And I was also trying to read somewhere that this Bhaya, Krodha, Raga, these are the emotions actually which cause blockages in our heart in a physical way also. Because we take stress and it causes this. If we come out of this Bhaya, Raga, Krodha, then definitely it will also give a good heart health to us, along with the spiritual development of our and purification of our heart. Yeah, thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you very much, Yashoda Vatsal. As pursuant to your name, you have a very soft heart. Hare Krishna. And sorry, Vaikuntha Naik, if we put any pressure on you. We miss you a lot.
I can say something if you like. In your order. I thought we were running short of time, but very quickly, Maharaj. I looked up the word illusion in etymology. Uh, the illusion, it comes from the Latin, it says mocking, derision. So I was just thinking how this entire world is mocking at us, uh, and yet we are just hanging on to it. So, yeah, that's one part of it. And the second thing about what you mentioned about catharsis through vicarious experience, is it similar to the example that Srila Prabhupada gives that some people hear something happening to others and they learn from it? That is first class intelligence. Second class intelligence is that you look at something happening to others and you learn from it. And third class intelligence is you experience it yourself and learn from it. Is it in the same lines?
Yeah, that's obviously a paradigm of a valid observation that if we learn through hearing, then we don't have to experience it ourselves. And one of the points that Sridhar Swami makes about the Bhagavatam is its knowledge isn't sufficient for reformation and transformation. We have to have more than knowledge. We have to have a softening of the heart in which there's a feeling of emotion for the Lord. Naishkarmyam apyachuta bhava varjitam nashobate jnanam alam niranjanam kutakmana shashvada abhadramishvare nacharpitam karma yadapyakaranam. First of all, you should understand philosophically, Krishna says in the Bhagavatam, Shruti pratyakshamitiyam anamanam chatushtayam, Pramaneshvana vanastanad vikalpatsa virajite. By knowledge, you can come to this idea of vikalpatsa virajite. You should be a little attached because you hear enough about the material world. But naishkarmyam apyachuta bhava varjitam, it's not enough just to cut off from the material world through knowledge. You have to have this achuta bhava. Bhava means the heart becomes soft. There's a ray that comes from the Bhagavatam. It's a ray of sunshine from what? From the internal energy. This is what Lord Chaitanya said. And that ray of the internal potency, it touches the heart and the heart melts. Evam evambrata swa priyanama kirtya jitanurago jita chutta uchara druta chitta, means the heart melts. The heart has to melt and the emotions have to come in because we already have emotions of everything in this material world. Border collies, penguins. Who likes penguins? Honk your horn. Bom, bom. Everyone's got some cause and emotion for this material world, but it's got to, you have to have yener or vindaksha vimuktamanias. You're not liberated until that emotion is for Krishna. And that you're only going to get that in the Bhagavatam. And that was the whole point of the 5th chapter, the 1st canto. Narada said to Vyasadeva, he said, you blew it. You missed the whole point. All these books you wrote, useless, jagupchanam. In fact, they're horrible. Should be able to withstand such chastisement. And he said, because you forgot Achyuta Bhava, he's going to go back, go to your cottage in Shamyaprash. And he went into deep samadhi and he understood by the mercy of his spiritual master that it's all about the relationship. And so until you get that, you can cut and cut and cut, and it'll still grow back. That was one of the points in the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam about Ajamil. But until the emotion for Krishna arrives within the heart, you can't escape the material world. It's too good. You know what it is? It's a quasi-world. Isn't it? You know what quasi means? Look it up. This is my last point, and I'm going to quit after this, I guarantee you.
Pseudo.
Huh? Quasi.
Pseudo.
Give the etymology quick. That's Quasi, quasi. What's some examples of quasi this or quasi that?
Quasi is means as if, as it were, as it were.
Give examples of quasi this, quasi that. Five, four, three, two.
The two men are quasi neighbors. Both have homes in the Miami area.
Okay, another example.
Some of those can be quasi invasive if they're not kept in check.
Quasi means there's, say it.
As if, as it were.
Huh? Almost kind of like the word verisimilitude, which means it's kind of similar, but not like same, but different. It's like you're not quite there, quasi. He's a quasi doctor. It's like, oh yeah, what does he do? So he learned on the internet. I think I'll go elsewhere for surgery. So this is a quasi world. It looks like a real word, but it's quasi. It's not real. That's one of the main points of the Bhagavatam. And until you can find the real world, even if you try to cut this world off, it's such a good replica. It looks like it's a great idea. It's just not. But even if you learn that, you still can't cut off your attachment to it because you have nowhere to go. So Bhagavatam attaches us to the real world, which is our relationship with Krishna, and then we're safe. And then that's the goal of life. And that's why we have to distribute Bhagavatam so profusely, because all these other processes, they're incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. And you're not going to get there through that. And you're going to end up going off the wrong road. So that's why we have to distribute at least 108,000 Bhagavatams in 2026. Okay? Say yes. Hare Krishna. All right, now we have... Oh, look who we have here. Are you presenting today? Let me get out of here really fast. Thank you very much, everybody. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmi Sringeti, if you so desire, please let us attach ourselves to the Bhagavatam. May we develop a relationship with the Bhagavatam that changes our opinion about our decision to stay in the material world. And may we decide to only live in the spiritual world with Krishna and Krishna's devotees. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. We'll see you on the other side. Please welcome our next speaker.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Such a wonderful class and such rich, deep points. And I'm very grateful that we can hear your paper for the Bhakti Vedanta, because we get a taste of your realizations churning through the scripture. And it's very heart-touching. And I think I was just thinking when I first came to Krishna consciousness, for me, reading Prabhupada's books was a starting point. And more important for me was meeting devotees who had practiced living Prabhupada's books. And you were my first one. And I was so grateful because I could see that this process works. You were a living Bhagavatam for me. So I'm very grateful that you're sharing your realizations, and I pray that I can keep hearing you for eternity. So today's presentation actually is an interesting topic. How do we tackle distresses in life? So I'll let Nimai present.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Such a wonderful class, and such rich, deep points. And I'm very grateful that we can hear your paper for the Bhakti Vedanta, because we get a taste of your realizations churning through the scripture. And Hare Krishna. My name is Nimai. Today I will be discussing the second chapter of Gauranga Darshan Prabhu's Bhagavad Viveka Secrets of Bhakti, entitled How to Tackle Distresses in Life. First, let's outline today's plan. We'll begin by discussing a series of never-ending calamities, then move on to how to evade these dangers. We'll touch upon peace amidst chaos and conclude with a spiritual skyride. So without further ado, let's get into our first topic, ceaseless calamities. Disturbances are present in this world, well, everywhere, even in Vraja during Krishna's childhood pastimes on this earth. As a child, many demons tried to kill Krishna, such as Putana, who tried to feed him poisoned breast milk, Shatakasura, who tried to crush him as a handcart, and Trinavrata, who took him 800,000 miles above the earth. In response to all these perils, the leaders of the Gopas decided to take action against them. They met to decide the safety of Krishna and Balaram and concluded that Gokul was too infested with demons and it would be safer to move to Vrindavan. However, more demons continued to attack in Vrindavan, such as Vaisesika, who took the form of a calf to try and kill Krishna, and Bakasura, who was the crane demon who tried to kill Krishna by swallowing him. But Krishna's life wasn't entirely about demons trying to kill him. He also, when he and his friends came home in the evening, his friends would tell their elders about Krishna's heroic deeds. And even though the move from Gokul to Vrindavan didn't solve the original problem of Krishna and Balaram's safety, the Vrajavasis weren't affected by it because their distress was melted away by Krishna's unparalleled bliss. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 11th chapter, 58th verse, it is said, Iti nandadayo gopa Krishna Rama katamura kurvanto ramananascha navindan bhava vedanam. Translation. In this way, all the cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaj, enjoyed topics about the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram with great transcendental pleasure, and they could not even perceive material tribulations. When we absorb our minds in Krishna's qualities and pastimes in the company of other devotees, we will be protected from tribulations in this material world. Sri Narad Muni confirms this in the first canto, 6th chapter and 34th verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Etadhyatra chittanam matra sparshe chayamuhu bhava sindhu plavo drishto hare chayanuvamanam. Translation. It is personally experienced by me, Narad Muni, that those who are always full of cares and anxieties due to desiring contact of the senses with their objects can cross the ocean of nescience on a most suitable boat, the constant chanting of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. This brings us to our concluding point, a spiritual skyride. In the purport of our first verse, Srila Prabhupada says, here is an instruction about the result of studying or discussing Krishna Leelas that appear in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda and Vrindavan appeared like ordinary persons of this material world, but they never felt the tribulations of this world, even though they sometimes met many dangerous situations created by the demons. This is a practical example. If we follow in the footsteps of Nanda Maharaj and the Gopas, we can all be happy simply by discussing the activities of Krishna. In conclusion, despite our efforts, we cannot avoid the calamities of this world, but we can choose to remain unaffected by them by armoring ourselves with the Vrindavan way of tackling distresses. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new.
That was fantastic. I like your delivery. You're cool as a cucumber in an icebox. And you came off with sort of a calm and confidence. You had confidence in the material. I liked how it was so much to the point. Sort of had a lot of carryovers from what I was talking about this morning. So I got a lot out of it. I stole some of the points that I'm going to include in my paper. And I really liked how you came out and showed up with already a command of the information. So it wasn't like you were reading off the PowerPoint. Nicely done. I think you should speak in public a lot because you have that kind of stature, and I think you'll go a long way with it. So keep up the great work, and thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes. Oh.
Akshara first.
Hare Krishna. That was a really nice presentation. Just one comment. I'm taking away that phrase that you used, the Vrindavan way of solving distresses. I just like the way you put it. Thank you.
1634. 1634 Bhagavatam verse you chose. It's a very fantastic verse. It is personally experienced by me that those who are full of cares and anxieties due to the desiring contact of the senses with their sense objects can cross the ocean of nescience on a most suitable boat, the constant chanting of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. So this verse, why we come across anxieties and cares, always. So it's clearly saying the desire of the contact of the senses and their objects. It's a very scientific way of understanding why we face calamities and anxieties. Nice words. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Nimai. Beautiful presentation, and also I like the slide, even though you took help from AI. So, wow, after hearing your presentation, only one verse came in my mind, which summarizes everything. I think it's 12:50. Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam navam tadeva shvasvad manasa mahatsavam tadeva shokarnava shoshanam nrinam yaduttama shloka jasho anugiyate. So this verse beautifully speaks that Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam namam. Your pastimes are so beautiful that it increases our taste, new taste. Tadeva shokarnava shoshanam nrinam. It absorbs all our material anxieties and lamentation. And I think I missed the second line. Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam navam. Tadeva swasthad manasa mahatsavam. And it is a festival of mind. Swasthad manasa mahatsavam. Yaduttama shloka jashanugiyate. When we hear or speaks about the glories of Uttama Shloka, who is praised by the best of the poetry. So I think this verse summarizes everything we spoke in this presentation. Hare Krishna. 12:50 Maharaj.
Does anyone have any questions? Or? Yes.
My question is when you're going to speak again. I want to make sure I'm in town to hear it.
Actually, I was thinking this was going to be his last one for the Kaishara, but you're right, could be in summer before he moves on to the youth age.
Okay, we'll be watching for it. Thank you, it's fantastic. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Nimai, for preparing and taking the time out. Thank you all, and I pray to please bless him, and so that he can be following what he's presented. That's more important in my cap as a mother. So, switching back to the teacher, thank you, Nimai, for all your effort. That I'll hand over to the next part, which is announcements. Do we have the Sankirtan team or Bhakti community? Okay. Vicky, Bhaktan Vicky.
Hare Krishna. Last night we could feel all the vibrations coming all the way from Harinam in Lytton Plaza. We were just a stone's throw away on Shauna Lane. So we got Palo Alto pretty covered. And last week, Guru Maharaj hosted a dance party. And one of the regular attendees, her parents asked her, "So where were you last Friday night?" And she said, "I was at a party." And she showed them the video recap. And they said, "Yeah, it looks like you had a lot of fun." And so she went on a road trip with one of her friends, and they started discussing spiritual philosophy. And she brought her friend to the mantra zone. And it was his first experience. And he was saying, "I've never read the Bhagavad Gita." So Ekachakra Prabhu said, "Talk to me afterwards." And Ekachakra Prabhu was leading such a wonderful session. He had so much natural spiritual joy, and I was just watching it reflect on the attendees of Mantra Zone. And it was a back and forth sharing. So please invite everyone to Mantra Zone. It's very convenient. It's just down the road, you can tell them. And we also have Sunday morning Bhagavad Gita reading circle. So as you distribute books, you can say immediately we can read them together tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. We are now in our Be a Gardener campaign. It just started just after offering, MSF offering, and then continues all the way till March 2nd, which is Gaur Purnima. And in between this 28, we have the appearance of Lord Nityananda, where we'll make our MSF offering. And the MSF offering is about reflection and organization. And as part of that, we are doing a lot of sessions internally, reflecting on how it went well. We had one session with the kids team, we had one session with the Western team, and we met with Bhagavad Seva team yesterday. So we are just reflecting a lot, and we are trying to find out what we can do better. And as part of this Be a Gardener campaign, we will have a goal which we are still ratifying on how much it would be for Chaitanya Charitamrita sets. But that didn't stop the devotees here, they already started. And last Saturday, there was a huge book distribution party at Mylapore not in Sunny Valley, I think it is in Westgate Mall. And we had special guest appearance from Ekachakra Prabhu, we had Vicky, and we had Priyanka also joined Achyuta Kumar Prabhu and Dhira Prashanta Prabhu. CC sets were flying, and they distributed 25 Chaitanya Charitamrita sets just at that spot from evening around 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. in that time slot. And it was so nice to see the people. It was an Indian place, a restaurant, vegetarian restaurant, but when they saw like Westerners coming and distributing Chaitanya Charitamrita sets, they were asking, "What are you doing? How did it inspire you to do this?" So just by their example, by their presence, they were just taking Chaitanya Charitamrita sets, and it was a wonderful experience. And there was, we often think that many different kind of religions or ideas are coming up, and maybe that might deter from them to take our books, Srila Prabhupada's books, or about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I had an opposite experience actually. I felt like all these things which everybody is teaching, it is increasing or improving the consciousness of people in general, because now we don't have to tell them about basic spirituality. They already know who is Krishna, and some people, they already know Srimati Radharani. So one experience was someone was following Premanand Maharaj in Vrindavan, and I was thinking, I don't know, how am I going to talk about Chaitanya Charitamrita to that person? But when I started saying about Nama Sankirtanam, she said that, I know, Premanand Maharaj asked me to chant the name of Srimati Radha Rani. And it was such an easy conversation to introduce Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when I said that this entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, you can see the expressions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the mood of Srimati Radharani and her separation from Krishna, and how he experiences different emotions, which is not described in any book other than Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. She was so happy. And she actually also had a tear in her eye, thinking that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in separation of Srimati Radharani. And she easily took the Chaitanya Charitamrita and she said, tell me how much I need to pay for it. So it's not necessarily detrimental that people are following other things. They're already on some spiritual platform. All we have to do is just present our books as it is, and it might change their heart. So please join today and tomorrow and for all the way until Gaur Purnima to distribute Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita sets. It's really nice, and it is not very difficult because Chaitanya Charitamrita is Bhagavatam exemplified by the life story of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All you have to do is the same presentation as Bhagavatam, just say that it's a life story of a person who is following Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's no need to change your script. You can still talk about Srimad Bhagavatam, but just wrap it up with Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Please join us. And we want to distribute hundreds and hundreds of sets. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Jodendriya tahe ka jive fele vishaya sagore tar madhe jivayati lobhamoy sudurmati take jeta katina samsare Krishna bada doyamoy kori bhare jiva jai swaprasad anna dilo bhai say annamrita pao Radha Krishna guna gao Preme dhako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Preme dhako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Mahaprasade Govinde Namo Brahmane Vaishnave Svalpa punyavatam rajan vishvaso navajayate prasade sarva dhukanam anirashopajayate prasanna chetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishtate tvayopabhukta shraganda vasulankara charchita uchishta bhojino dasa stavamayam jemahi Shushkam paryushitam vapi jitam vadirudeshataha prapti matrena bhoktavyam natra kala vicharana na desha niyamastatra na kala niyamastata pratamanam dhrutam shishte bhoktavyam hariradhrave Bhagavad Shri Mahaprasadam ki. Please come take prasadam. Hare Krishna.